Welcome to Week 10 of RGA 6207, where we will explore the Marketing Authorization Application (MAA) process in the European Union, with particular emphasis on the centralized procedure, and briefly touch upon the Japanese New Drug Application (JNDA) process. This lecture builds upon our previous discussions of the Electronic Common Technical Document (eCTD) framework, now examining how these standardized submissions are evaluated by the European Medicines Agency (EMA). The regulatory landscape for pharmaceuticals in Europe differs significantly from the United States FDA-centric system. Understanding these differences is crucial for regulatory affairs professionals working in global drug development programs. Today's objectives include comprehending the organizational structure of the EMA, understanding the 4 distinct pathways to market authorization in Europe, mastering the step-by-step centralized procedure timeline, and comparing Module 1 regional requirements between the MAA and FDA NDA. As future regulatory professionals, you must appreciate that while the eCTD provides a harmonized technical framework, regional administrative requirements and review processes vary substantially. This lecture will equip you with the knowledge to navigate these complexities effectively. This slide outlines our learning objectives for today's lecture. We will systematically work through the entire EU marketing authorization process, with concentrated focus on the centralized procedure as it represents the pathway for the most innovative therapeutics entering the European market. First, we will examine the EMA's organizational structure, including its scientific committees and their respective responsibilities. Understanding which committee reviews your application and the roles of rapporteurs is fundamental to successful regulatory strategy. Second, we will cover the pre-submission phase, including scientific advice meetings, protocol assistance for orphan drugs, and the Priority Medicines designation program. These pre-submission interactions can significantly influence your development program and submission strategy. Third, we will detail the dossier preparation requirements specific to the EU, particularly Module 1 regional variations and the quality review of documents, QRD, template requirements. Finally, we will walk through the complete MAA review timeline, from day 0 validation through the clock stop periods, CHMP opinion, and ultimately the European Commission decision. Pay particular attention to the differences from FDA timelines, as this will inform your global regulatory strategy and launch sequencing decisions. Let us begin with geographical and organizational context. The European Union currently comprises 27 member states following the United Kingdom's departure, Brexit, in 2020. Additionally, the European Economic Area, EEA, includes Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, which also fall under EMA's regulatory jurisdiction despite not being EU members. This map illustrates the significant scope of the EU pharmaceutical market, collectively representing approximately 450 million citizens and one of the world's largest pharmaceutical markets. A single centralized marketing authorization provides access to this entire market simultaneously, which represents a significant advantage compared to seeking individual national authorizations. The EMA's relocation from London to Amsterdam following Brexit was a major logistical undertaking completed in 2019. The agency's new headquarters at the Spark building in Amsterdam's Zuida's business district now serves as the hub for European pharmaceutical regulation. Understanding this geographical scope is essential for regulatory planning. When you submit a centralized MAA, your product labeling, summary of product characteristics, SMPC, and package leaflet must be translated into all 24 official EU languages. This linguistic requirement represents a substantial undertaking that must be factored into your submission timeline and budget. The European Medicines Agency serves as the coordinating body for pharmaceutical regulation across the EU and EEA. Unlike the FDA, which directly conducts scientific reviews, the EMA operates as a network organization that coordinates the scientific resources of member state national competent authorities. The EMA's primary responsibilities include coordinating scientific evaluations of medicinal products, providing scientific advice to sponsors, managing pharmacovigilance activities across the EU, facilitating innovation through programs like Prime and Adaptive Pathways, and maintaining the community register of authorized medicinal products. It is important to understand that the EMA does not grant marketing authorizations directly. The scientific opinion issued by the CHMP serves as the basis for a legally binding decision made by the European Commission. This two-step process, scientific assessment followed by legal decision, is fundamental to understanding the EU regulatory framework. The EMA's budget comes primarily from fees paid by pharmaceutical companies for evaluation services and from an EU subsidy. This fee structure, detailed in Regulation EU 2018/1141, should be factored into your development program budget. Centralized procedure fees can exceed €300,000 for a full MAA evaluation. The EMA operates through 7 scientific committees, each with specific mandates. For human pharmaceutical products, the Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use, CHMP, is the primary evaluation body you will interact with for marketing authorization applications. The CHMP consists of 1 member and 1 alternate from each EU member state, plus representatives from Norway and Iceland. Up to 5 additional co-opted members with specific scientific expertise may be appointed. The CHMP's role is to conduct scientific assessments and provide opinions on quality, safety, and efficacy of medicinal products. The Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, PRAC, evaluates all aspects of risk management for human medicines. PRAC provides recommendations on risk management plans, periodic safety update reports, SIRs, and post-authorization safety studies. Their input is increasingly integrated into the initial MAA review process. Other committees include COMP, Committee for Orphan Medicinal Products, which designates orphan drug status, PDCO, Pediatric Committee, which assesses pediatric investigation plans, CAT, Committee for Advanced Therapies, which evaluates gene therapies, cell therapies, and tissue-engineered products, HMPC, Committee on Herbal Medicinal Products, and CVMP, Committee for Medicinal Products for Veterinary Use. Understanding which committees will review aspects of your application is crucial for regulatory strategy and timeline planning. This organizational chart illustrates the hierarchical structure and reporting relationships within the EMA. The Management Board provides strategic direction and oversight, while the Executive Director leads day-to-day operations. The scientific committees operate with considerable independence in their evaluations, though they work within the framework established by EU pharmaceutical legislation. The CHMP, as the primary evaluation committee for human medicines, reports its opinions to the European Commission for final decision-making. Working parties and scientific advisory groups support the committees by providing specialized expertise. For example, the Quality Working Party provides guidance on pharmaceutical quality matters, while the Safety Working Party addresses toxicological questions. These working parties develop guidelines that inform sponsor submissions and committee evaluations. The EMA also maintains coordination groups for decentralized and mutual recognition procedures, CMDH, Coordination Group for Mutual Recognition and Decentralized Procedures, Human. While our focus today is the centralized procedure, understanding that the EMA plays a coordination role in these other procedures is important for your overall regulatory toolkit. Understanding the 4 pathways to EU market authorization is fundamental to regulatory strategy. Your choice of procedure depends on product type, commercial strategy, and timeline considerations. The centralized procedure, CP, involves a single application evaluated by the EMA/CHMP, resulting in one marketing authorization valid across all 27 EU member states plus EA countries. This is mandatory for certain product categories and optional for others, as we will discuss. The centralized procedure offers the advantage of simultaneous market access but requires substantial resources for the comprehensive submission. The decentralized procedure, DCP, allows simultaneous application to multiple member states, with one designated as the reference member state, RMS, to conduct the primary assessment. Concerned member states, CMS, then agree on the evaluation outcome. This procedure is useful for products not eligible for centralized procedure when you want to launch in multiple EU markets. The Mutual Recognition Procedure, MRP, leverages an existing national authorization in one member state to obtain recognition in additional member states. This is efficient when you already have an authorization and want to expand market access. The national procedure involves a single application to one member state and results in authorization valid only in that country. This may be appropriate for products with limited commercial scope or specific regional indications. This slide displays the logos of various national competent authorities, NCAs, across EU member states. Each country maintains its own regulatory agency responsible for national authorizations, pharmacovigilance, and participation in EMA procedures. For centralized procedures, the CHMP assigns a rapporteur and co-rapporteur from different member state NCAs to lead the scientific assessment. The selection considers expertise, workload, and avoiding conflicts of interest. Building relationships with NCAs can be valuable, as you may request specific agencies serve as rapporteur based on their relevant expertise. Key agencies you should be familiar with include BfArM and Paul Ehrlich Institute, Germany, ANSM, France, AIFA, Italy, AEMPS, Spain, MPA, Sweden, HPRA, Ireland, and CBGMEB, Netherlands. Each has particular areas of therapeutic or methodological expertise that may be relevant to your development program. The UK's MHRA is no longer part of the EU network post-Brexit. This has significant implications for regulatory strategy, as UK authorizations are now separate from EU procedures. Many companies now pursue parallel submissions to EMA and MHRA to maintain access to both markets. The link provided on the slide allows you to access the complete directory of NCAs with contact information for each agency. Certain product categories must use the centralized procedure. These are mandatory scope products. This mandatory requirement ensures consistent evaluation of the most innovative and complex therapeutics across the EU. Mandatory categories include new active substances for specific therapeutic areas, oncology, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, autoimmune disorders, viral diseases, and AIDS. These therapeutic areas were prioritized due to significant unmet medical need and the importance of consistent EU-wide evaluation. All biotechnology-derived products must use the centralized procedure. This includes recombinant proteins, monoclonal antibodies, vaccines produced through recombinant technology, and gene therapy products. The complexity of manufacturing and characterization for these products necessitates centralized expert review. Advanced therapy medicinal products, ATMPs, including gene therapy, somatic cell therapy, and tissue-engineered products, fall under mandatory centralized evaluation through the Committee for Advanced Therapies, CAT. Orphan-designated medicinal products, which target rare diseases affecting fewer than 5 in 10,000 EU citizens, must also use the centralized procedure. This ensures these products receive comprehensive expert review while benefiting from orphan incentives including 10 years of market exclusivity. Special assessment pathways including conditional marketing authorization, prime designation, and accelerated assessment are predominantly available through the centralized procedure, further incentivizing its use for innovative products. This comparative table highlights the special assessment pathways available at both EMA and FDA. Understanding these expedited programs is essential for developing regulatory strategy for innovative products addressing serious conditions with unmet medical need. The EMA's Prime, Priority Medicines, program parallels FDA's Breakthrough Therapy designation, providing enhanced interaction with regulators and potential accelerated assessment. Prime designated products receive early appointment of a rapporteur, enhanced scientific advice, and the possibility of accelerated assessment, reducing the evaluation timeline from 210 to 150 days. Accelerated assessment at EMA reduces the active review time when the product addresses unmet medical need of major public health interest. This must be specifically requested and justified at submission. Conditional marketing authorization allows earlier approval based on less comprehensive data than normally required, when the benefit-risk balance is positive for a product addressing unmet medical need. This requires annual renewal and commitments to provide comprehensive data. EMA's adaptive pathways concept allows iterative development with progressive reduction of uncertainty through real-world evidence collection. While not a distinct regulatory pathway, it represents an approach to evidence generation. FDA pathways shown include Fast Track, Breakthrough Therapy, Accelerated Approval, and Priority Review. Your global regulatory strategy should consider eligibility for both EU and US expedited programs to optimize development timelines. Beyond the mandatory categories, certain products may optionally use the centralized procedure. This optional scope provides sponsors flexibility in choosing the most appropriate authorization pathway. New active substances not falling within mandatory therapeutic categories may elect centralized evaluation if they represent significant therapeutic, scientific, or technical innovation, or if centralized authorization is in the interest of patients or animal health at EU level. This interest of patients criterion allows some interpretation and should be discussed with EMA through pre-submission interactions. Certain pediatric products may use the centralized procedure, particularly when the pediatric investigation plan supports a new pediatric indication for an existing product. Generic or hybrid applications referring to a centrally authorized reference product may use centralized evaluation. This can be advantageous when the reference product's data protection period is expiring and the generic manufacturer wants simultaneous EU-wide launch. Sponsors should carefully evaluate whether centralized procedure is strategically optimal even when optional. Considerations include desired launch sequence across markets, available resources for comprehensive dossier preparation, commercial importance of simultaneous EU access versus phased market entry, and specific expertise available at certain NCAs through decentralized procedures. This slide recaps the 4 authorization pathways, reinforcing the distinction between procedures and their appropriate applications. Let me provide additional context on strategic pathway selection. The centralized procedure is optimal when your product falls under mandatory scope, you have resources for comprehensive simultaneous submission, simultaneous EU-wide launch is commercially important, or you need access to EU-specific expedited pathways. The decentralized procedure suits products outside centralized scope when you want multi-market access. Strategic selection of the reference member state is critical. Consider the agency's relevant expertise, historical approval timelines, and your relationship with the agency. Mutual recognition is efficient for expanding market presence from an existing authorization. However, differences in labeling or assessment conclusions from the original authorization can complicate the MRP process. National procedure might be appropriate for products with limited commercial scope, culturally specific products, or when testing market reception before broader expansion. Hybrid strategies exist. Some companies pursue national authorization in one member state to establish a reference, then use MRP for expansion, reserving centralized procedure for subsequent innovative products. Your regulatory strategy should align with commercial objectives, development program design, and resource availability. The centralized procedure involves several key institutional players. Understanding their roles and interactions is essential for effective engagement throughout the review process. The EMA, headquartered in Amsterdam, coordinates the evaluation process, manages procedural timelines, and provides administrative support. EMA staff do not conduct scientific assessment themselves but ensure process compliance and facilitate committee activities. The CHMP is the scientific committee responsible for the evaluation opinion. Composed of representatives from each member state plus co-opted experts, the CHMP meets monthly to review applications, discuss assessment questions, and issue opinions. CHMP opinions form the basis for European Commission decisions. The rapporteur and co-rapporteur are CHMP members assigned to lead the scientific assessment of each application. They prepare the assessment report, present findings to the full committee, and coordinate with the applicant on requests for supplementary information. The rapporteur's assessment report forms the foundation of CHMP discussions. Selection of rapporteurs involves considerations of scientific expertise, language capabilities, workload, and avoidance of conflicts of interest. While sponsors cannot mandate rapporteur selection, expressing preference is possible through pre-submission discussions. The rapporteur and co-rapporteur relationship is unique to the EU centralized system and differs fundamentally from FDA's approach where review is conducted by internal staff. The rapporteur, drawn from a member state NCA, leads the primary scientific assessment. They prepare the initial assessment report covering quality, non-clinical, and clinical sections. The rapporteur team at the NCA performs detailed technical review, often involving specialized assessors for different modules. The co-rapporteur provides an independent parallel assessment, ensuring comprehensive evaluation and identifying any aspects requiring additional scrutiny. The co-rapporteur's perspective helps ensure balanced committee discussion. Both rapporteurs present their findings to CHMP plenary sessions, where the full committee discusses and reaches consensus on assessment conclusions and any questions to be raised with the applicant. The European Commission in Brussels makes the final legally binding decision based on the CHMP opinion. This decision, published as a Commission decision, grants or refuses the marketing authorization and specifies any conditions or obligations. The Commission rarely deviates from CHMP opinions but has the authority to do so. Engaging constructively with rapporteur teams throughout the procedure is crucial. Responding thoroughly and promptly to questions demonstrates quality and facilitates efficient review. This timeline diagram provides an overview of the complete centralized procedure from pre-submission through final decision. Let me walk you through the key phases and milestones. The pre-submission phase includes letter of intent, submitted 7 months before anticipated filing, pre-submission meeting, and the formal submission itself. This preparatory period is crucial for ensuring submission readiness and optimal regulatory strategy. Day 0 marks the start of the validation phase, where EMA confirms completeness of the submission. Unlike FDA's 60-day filing review, EMA's validation is completed within approximately 10 days. The active evaluation phase spans approximately 210 days, or 150 days for accelerated assessment. This is divided into periods of assessment, clock stops for sponsor response, and CHMP deliberation. Clock stop periods pause the day count while sponsors prepare responses to questions. These periods can extend significantly depending on question complexity, often adding 3 to 6 months to the overall timeline. The Commission decision phase follows a positive CHMP opinion, taking approximately 67 days to finalize the legally binding authorization. Understanding this timeline is essential for planning commercial launch activities, manufacturing scale-up, and coordinating with parallel regulatory submissions in other regions. This comparative analysis between EMA MAA and FDA NDA review processes highlights key similarities and differences that inform global regulatory strategy. Both agencies conduct rigorous scientific assessment of quality, safety, and efficacy data. Both have expedited pathways for products addressing serious conditions with unmet need. The CTD format is common to both, enabling efficient preparation of core technical modules. Key differences include, the EMA uses external rapporteur assessment versus FDA's internal review teams. EMA validation is shorter but the active review typically extends longer. Clock stop mechanisms operate somewhat differently, and final decision authority rests with different bodies, Commission versus FDA Center Director. Review timelines are often similar in practice. Standard FDA review, 10 months, approximates EMA standard, 210 days plus clock stops plus commission decision. However, specific timing varies by product complexity, questions raised, and sponsor responsiveness. For global development programs, understanding these differences enables strategic planning of submission sequencing. Some companies submit to FDA first given U.S. market importance, others prefer simultaneous filing, and some pursue EMA first when EU launch is prioritized. Your regulatory strategy should align filing sequence with commercial launch priorities and manufacturing readiness. Let us examine the initial phases of the centralized procedure in greater detail. The pre-submission period establishes the foundation for successful review. The letter of intent, submitted 7 months before anticipated filing, signals your intention to submit and provides basic product information. This triggers EMA planning activities and initiates rapporteur selection processes. Pre-submission meetings with EMA allow discussion of procedural aspects, regulatory requirements, and any product-specific considerations. This is not a forum for scientific advice on development programs that occurs through separate scientific advice procedures, but rather for submission logistics. Scientific advice meetings, while separate from the MAA procedure itself, significantly influence development programs and subsequent MAA evaluation. Obtaining and following EMA scientific advice is generally associated with higher approval rates and fewer major objections during review. Prime designation, if obtained during development, provides enhanced interaction including early rapporteur appointment and possibility of accelerated assessment. Prime requests should be made before Phase 3 completion when substantial clinical evidence is emerging. The period between letter of intent and submission should be used for finalizing the dossier, completing linguistic review of labeling, and ensuring all modules meet current technical requirements. EMA's validation phase differs notably from FDA's filing review. Upon receipt of the submission, EMA conducts validation within approximately 10 calendar days, significantly shorter than FDA's 60-day review period. Validation confirms that the submission is administratively complete and properly formatted. This is not a substantive scientific review but rather ensures all required sections are present, formatting meets eCTD specifications, and administrative information is accurate. A 3-stage acknowledgement system operates: initial acknowledgement of receipt, notification of validation outcome, and confirmation of Day 0 start date. This structured communication ensures sponsors know their submission status promptly. If validation identifies deficiencies, EMA provides a list of missing or incomplete elements. Sponsors have approximately 5 days to address minor deficiencies before the application is rejected. Major deficiencies result in rejection requiring resubmission. Common validation issues include incomplete Module 1 administrative forms, missing or incorrect translations, formatting non-compliance with eCTD specifications, missing expert statements, and incomplete environmental risk assessments. Thorough quality review before submission minimizes validation risk. Many companies conduct internal mock validation reviews using EMA checklists to identify issues before filing. Following successful validation, the active evaluation phase begins. This slide focuses on the initial assessment period spanning days 1 through approximately day 80. During this phase, the rapporteur and co-rapporteur teams conduct detailed scientific assessment of all 5 CTD modules. Each team prepares an independent assessment report covering quality, Module 3, non-clinical, Module 4, and clinical, Module 5, sections. The rapporteur's assessment report provides comprehensive evaluation including identification of any deficiencies, requests for clarification, and preliminary benefit risk assessment. The co-rapporteur prepares a critique of the rapporteur's report, identifying areas of agreement and any additional concerns. By day 80, rapporteur teams share their assessment reports with CHMP members. This allows the full committee to review findings before the next procedural phase. During this period, sponsors should not expect direct communication from rapporteur teams. However, Preparation for potential questions should begin based on anticipated areas of inquiry identified during development. Having response strategies ready for likely questions accelerates clock stop response preparation. Days 80 through 120 involve consolidated assessment and preparation of questions for the applicant. The CHMP reviews rapporteur reports and discusses key issues at plenary meetings. Committee discussion may identify additional concerns beyond those in rapporteur reports, or may conclude that certain rapporteur concerns are adequately addressed. A consolidated list of questions, LOQ, is prepared, representing the formal request for supplementary information from the sponsor. Questions are categorized as major objections, critical issues that must be resolved for positive opinion, or other concerns, important but not necessarily opinion determining. By day 120, the list of questions is formally transmitted to the applicant. This triggers the first clock stop period, pausing the day count while the sponsor prepares responses. The clock stop duration depends on question complexity and sponsor capabilities. Simple clarification questions might be addressed in weeks, while major objections requiring additional data analysis or new studies can extend clock stops significantly. Understanding the distinction between major objections and other concerns is crucial. Major objections represent obstacles to approval and must be satisfactorily resolved. Your response strategy should prioritize comprehensive resolution of major objections. The clock stop period represents a critical phase where sponsors prepare responses to the list of questions. Unlike FDA's information request process, EU clock stops formally pause the evaluation timeline until responses are submitted. Effective clock stop response strategy involves immediately analyzing each question to understand the specific concern, developing a response outline and timeline, engaging appropriate subject matter experts, and planning any additional analyses needed. Response format should directly address each question with clear, concise answers. Reference to specific dossier sections should facilitate review or assessment. New data or analyses should be properly documented in eCTD format. Companies often underestimate clock stop response time. Complex data reanalyses, additional expert consultations, or need to generate new information can extend timelines significantly. Realistic timeline estimation prevents rushed, incomplete responses. Some sponsors request meetings during clock stops to clarify question interpretation or discuss response approach. While not always granted, such meetings can improve response quality and reviewer satisfaction. Remember that clock stop extensions delay your overall authorization timeline. Efficient, comprehensive responses serve both regulatory success and commercial objectives. Following clock stop response submission, evaluation resumes at day 121. This phase involves CHMP assessment of sponsor responses in preparation for potential oral explanation. Rapporteur teams evaluate responses against the original questions, assessing whether concerns are adequately addressed. Their updated assessment reports inform CHMP discussion. If significant concerns remain after written responses, CHMP may request an oral explanation. This formal meeting allows sponsors to present their position, provide additional clarification, and engage in scientific dialogue with the committee. Oral explanations are typically conducted at CHMP plenary meetings. Preparation should include identifying likely areas of focus, developing clear presentation materials, preparing for anticipated follow-up questions, and selecting appropriate company experts to present. The oral explanation is a significant opportunity to influence committee opinion. Clear, credible, scientifically grounded presentations can resolve concerns that written responses did not fully address. Days 121 to 150 represent the period for response evaluation, oral explanation if requested, and preparation of updated CHMP assessment. This phase shapes the trajectory toward final opinion. Days 150 through 180 involve second list of questions if needed in preparation for CHMP opinion. Not all applications proceed to this phase. Straightforward applications may advance directly to opinion. If the first response cycle did not resolve all concerns, a second list of outstanding issues may be issued. These represent remaining concerns requiring sponsor response before opinion can be reached. A second clock stop commences upon issue transmission, again pausing the day count. This clock stop is typically shorter, as questions are more focused on specific remaining issues rather than broad dossier assessment. The need for a second question cycle is not necessarily negative. Complex, innovative products often require iterative dialogue to reach shared understanding of data interpretation. However, inability to resolve concerns through two question cycles may signal fundamental issues. During this phase, sponsors should maintain close communication with their regulatory teams to ensure coordinated, comprehensive responses. The goal is definitive resolution of remaining concerns to enable clear CHMP opinion. Days 180 through 210 represent the final assessment phase leading to CHMP opinion. This is the culmination of the scientific review process. Rapporteur teams prepare final assessment reports incorporating all responses and discussions. The joint assessment report consolidates rapporteur and co-rapporteur perspectives into a unified CHMP position. The benefit-risk assessment is finalized, weighing demonstrated efficacy against identified safety concerns in the context of the target patient population and therapeutic alternatives. This assessment forms the scientific basis for the committee opinion. CHMP discussion at plenary meetings considers the complete evidence package and assessment conclusions. Committee members may have divergent views that require resolution through debate and consensus building. Day 210 represents the target for CHMP opinion adoption. This opinion, either positive, negative, or in rare cases conditional, is transmitted to the European Commission as the basis for decision. CHMP opinions can take several forms, each with different implications for sponsors and product authorization. A positive opinion recommends marketing authorization with specified indication, dosing, and conditions. This triggers the Commission decision process leading to legal authorization. Conditional marketing authorization, CMA, may be granted when benefit risk is positive but comprehensive data are not yet available. CMA requires annual renewal and commitments to provide additional data. Products meeting unmet medical need for serious conditions may be eligible. Marketing authorization under exceptional circumstances applies when complete data cannot be provided due to the rarity of the condition or ethical constraints on study conduct. This differs from CMA in not requiring eventual provision of comprehensive data. A negative opinion recommends refusal of authorization. Sponsors may request re-examination within 15 days, triggering a 60-day review by an expanded CHMP panel. Re-examination can result in reversal of negative opinion if new arguments are persuasive. Withdrawal by sponsor is possible at any point before opinion adoption. Strategic withdrawal may be preferable to negative opinion in some circumstances, allowing for program modification and future resubmission. Module 1 of the eCTD contains regional administrative information that differs between MAA and NDA submissions. While Modules 2 to 5 are harmonized through ICH, Module 1 reflects specific regulatory requirements of each region. For MAA Module 1, key documents include application form, product information, SMPC, package leaflet, labeling, expert statements, environmental risk assessment, orphan designation evidence if applicable, and various administrative forms specific to EU requirements. The Summary of Product Characteristics, SMPC, is a critical Module 1 document following the Quality Review of Documents, QRD, template. The SMPC serves as the official prescribing information throughout the EU and must conform to precise formatting and content requirements. Package leaflet and labeling follow QRD templates and must ultimately be available in all 24 official EU languages. Initial submission may include English with language translations completed before authorization. Environmental risk assessment is mandatory for MAA and evaluates the product's potential environmental impact. This requirement differs from FDA submissions and requires specific studies evaluating environmental fate and effects. Pediatric Investigation Plan (PIP) compliance evidence demonstrating adherence to pediatric development requirements is mandatory for MAA Module 1. This detailed comparison of MAA and NDA Module 1 requirements highlights specific regional differences that require attention in global submission planning. Administrative documents differ. MAA requires EU-specific application forms, expert statements with curriculum vitae, and QRD format product information. NDA requires FDA forms, 1571, 3674, 356H, patent certification, and U.S. prescribing information format. Product information format differs significantly. The EU SMPC follows QRD template with prescribed sections and formatting. U.S. prescribing information follows the Physician Labeling Rule (PLR) format with different organization and content requirements. Maintaining both formats requires careful planning to ensure scientific consistency while meeting regional requirements. Patent and exclusivity provisions differ. MAA submissions involve BOLR provisions and supplementary protection certificates, SPCs. NDA submissions involve Orange Book listings and exclusivity provisions under the Hatch-Waxman framework. User fees and timelines for fee submission differ between regions. Planning for both fee structures is essential for budget management. Environmental assessment requirements differ. EU environmental risk assessment has become increasingly rigorous, while FDA requires environmental assessment or categorical exclusion justification. Understanding these Module 1 differences enables efficient global submission preparation while ensuring compliance with each region's specific requirements. Many companies develop core teams responsible for maintaining region-specific Module 1 documentation alongside harmonized technical modules.